Well, this is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to Open Talk. And this Open Talk is a program where you talk or I talk or we hear one another. we just filanga free. We just filanga free and with an aim of educating, informing, rebuking, correcting, whatever. That is our aim. And we want you to be a part of us as we go on with the discussion. We have dealt with the different kinds of discussions, and this evening we have yet another discussion, which is going to be, I think, is going to be very lively, because we are going to bring heaven here on earth. We are going to bring heaven here on earth, and tonight. I have several guests. I have several guests with me tonight, and they will. I don't want to introduce the guests. I want the guests to introduce themselves. I want them to introduce themselves, because there is a way I know every one of them, but I don't want to introduce them the way I know them. I want them to introduce themselves. So I would like you to say exactly who you are and the way you would like me to address you, and then we filanga free and we just move on. And since they said that ladies first, men come in front, but ladies first. But this is when you are going on a journey, men come in front. But any other time, ladies first. Yes. Yeah. And we will say, let me ask my lady guest, to introduce yourself.
My name is Joy Mudivo. I'm Bishop J.B. Masinda's daughter, but I am Joy Mudivo. It's important to clarify, because I am now a married woman, and I'm very happy to be here today.
Thank you so very much. This one I know since 19 long ago. since 19 long ago. And I will ask our second guest to introduce himself.
Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Solomon Silla, or Pastor Solomon Silla. I am Bishop Peter Silla's son, and I'm excited to be here. And I did you know me as Solo, so tusikuwe na pasta hapa. Solo imetosha.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Solo. Solo, I have also known for a long time. His dad is a friend of mine for a long time, and we just want to have a good time. And let me ask my third guest to introduce himself, please.
Thank you so much, Bishop, for this opportunity. And I really appreciate it. It's good to be here. And thank you also to our viewers. My name is Reverend Dan Kariuki. A lot of you know me as Junior. You can call me Junior or Dan. Whichever you choose today to refer me to, you're welcome. And thank you to our viewers as well. I hope you're going to enjoy this.
And you're whose son?
I am the son to Bishop Kariuki.
Okay, so by now, viewers, you know the church is here.
The
whole church is here. And I also want to I don't know whether you call it a disclaimer, but I want to put a statement forward to the viewers and to you, that whatever you say in this program will not be held against you.
Thank you. That's important.
Anytime and anywhere. So parents, whatever is said here cannot be unsaid, and it cannot be followed after this. And then I want you to assume I am not here. You assume I'm not here. You are having your own discussions. Assume I'm not your. We are not related in any way. We have never met. We have never met in any way. But our aim is to help somebody understand who a pastor's kid is, and the challenges that a pastor's kid or pastor's kids go through right from birth, and the challenges that a pastor's kid will face if they're in ministry or when they're in ministry. And we also look at the pastor's kids who are in ministry, and there are those who are not in ministry. There are also pastor's kids who are ministering with their parents, and there are others who are very active in other churches but never in their parents' churches. All this. But so we will take ourselves in that direction, and we want to find out the challenges that we normally face. Now, maybe the first I would start by asking if we could look at ask yourself, what are the things that you loved most as a pastor's kid, growing up as a pastor's kid, and what are the things that you hated most as a growing up as a pastor's kid?
I think one of the things I loved most, to be honest, chakula high table. Chakula high table. You know, when you're a pastor's child, one thing you attend endlessly is endless weddings and endless funerals. But the thing is, in attending all the endless weddings, because you came with the man of God, you did not queue with the others outside. You sat and your hands were washed and you were served where you were seated. And I remember when I was about in Form 2, it's the first time I attended a wedding for a friend without my father being the one officiating. And so after the wedding, we lined up outside. And I was handed a plate of pilau. Those days there was no buffet. I was handed a plate of pilau dry and a Fanta. No spoon, no nothing. And I was in shock because I did not know this is how people, general people. So there were those little things that came with being a pastor's child that sort of cushioned you from some realities. But on that same flip side, I think there's a generation of church members who I went to all their weddings, all their dedications, all their funerals, all their opening their house. There's a time we had visited every single deliverance church in this country. I mean, you are in ministry by force and by fire, whether you like it or not. So you get to a place where there's only one person who was called, but you realize it was a conference call. So that was something that I wasn't very enthusiastic about, especially when I became a teenager. Because that's the time when your friends are making plans, they want to go, it's school holidays, we've decided we are going to Arboretum, you are told you are not going to Arboretum, we are going to Bonke's Crusade. I was thinking, Bonke is a good one, but why? So that being in ministry forcefully, I did not appreciate. Now that I've grown up, I think, okay, it grounded me in some things, like especially in my spiritual life, because I sat under excellent teachings. If you're coming for impact, if you're coming for... I mean, I was grounded properly in the faith. But socially, when I was growing up, and up until I was in my 20s, I don't think I appreciated that angle of being in ministry by force and by fire.
I kind of see where you're coming from, because most of the things that I loved are the same things that you know, probably you mentioned about. Because when you go places, the doors would be open for us.
Right.
They would sit you at the high tables, they would serve you first. And since my father was called so many times to go to many places, we would attend weddings and just to be served first, to be recognized, to a pastor, anakaa pale mbele, you know, such things. They really made us feel good, and or rather they made me feel good. And at the same time, on the opposite, or on the contrary, is the fact that you'd go attend every meeting that you're called to. Yeah. But one thing I'm happy about my father is that in most of his sermons you heard him say that he was in the army and he was once a teacher. I believe today if he was a teacher, he would probably be in the ranks of Kina Sosion and the rest because of
DNA.
because of DNA. Leadership was in or if he continued in the army, he'd probably be one of the generals like Nakarangi and the others because of his passion for what he does. So as a result of that, I liked that as a fact that he was able to continue in ministry. It was good because even my spiritual life was changed. If he was an army officer, I don't know, maybe I would be more into the army. If he was a teacher, probably would be a teacher. But the fact that he chose to serve God and to serve Him diligently, that was a plus for us, and even my brother and my sister who follow me. So it is a good thing. One of the things I didn't like or I hated, especially when growing up, was when you go outside to play with the boys and they ask you, by the way, baba yako anafanya kazi gani? And then you tell them he's a pastor, and then they say, but pastors work on Sundays only. What does he do from Monday to Saturday? You know, and you are challenged. When I ran to ask my mother, they would say, my mom would tell me, wachana na hao, msiende kucheza na watoto kama hao, si watoto wazuri. So there I am a child, I'm playing banter. I'm being asked, what does your dad do? The other thing is I hated is when I was in school, when people were being chased away for school fees. So when they chase you away, at times you'd go out with them, you know, but you have not been chased because my fees has been paid. So what happens is that when we're out there, the kids would make some jokes. Hey, Junior, kweli atu umefukuzwa? No, mimi sijafukuzwa. And then somebody else will say, huyu hawezi fukuzwa. Sijana ilikuwa Sunday tulitoa sadaka. So when people talk to you that way, it doesn't and you're a child, you're growing up, and they will not ask a doctor's kid the same questions they ask in a pastor. So we were really in the limelight, kumulikwa sana. Maybe my last one before I give Sila a chance is, I remember when my dad was building his house in Nakuru, and there are people who would say, hey, hawa na pesa mpaka hii mawe ya kujenga inatolewa South Africa. I remember people saying that, and I came asking my dad, is it true you buy stones from South Africa? You can imagine the hustle, buying stones from South Africa to ship them into Kenya so that you can build a house. But it's just that we are in the limelight, and people would want to talk about us and to show us that if you are a pastor's kid, you are supposed to live in a different way in the society. And that is something that is very, very wrong. So there are pastors' kids, doctors' kids, lawyers' kids, businessmen kids. They are all the same. We have the same DNA. Our blood is red. We don't fall from heaven on Sunday and pop up. And then bam, I was just with Noah and Moses. I just landed here. No. So we are very much the same like you guys. Yes.
Jesus, idea. I think I relate with Joy and Junior on just this fact that being a pastor's child, you're always given the first priority because of your parents, because they want to treat you well. People want to, they're looking at this small angel. Ai, kamezaliwa ni katoto kazuri. But those were the good spaces where you'll go to every meeting, treated well, given food, so long as mtumishi wa Bwana hajakula, wacha tu shughulikie, lakini lazima shughulikiwe pamoja na familia. So you would fit into that space, and mtoto mtumishi, and sometimes utapata chakula nyingi, si ukule. So you will enjoy those privileges, and these spaces were good. Utapata kanisa hata kama imejaa, kuna mtu atasimama, mtoto wa mtumishi akae chini, Bwana asifiwe sana, hautateseka sababu mtoto wa mafuta. So it just, everything fell into place, and it was amazing. Those moments were good because at least attention. Now the challenge is that it gave you a lot of attention that you did not need at a very tender age. So having that attention, not knowing it wasn't because of you, it was because of your father. So you find a lot of children now, because after some years have passed and now you are trying to define yourself, you're so used to getting affirmation from people, you do not know how to give yourself affirmation. You've not learned how. So those are the challenges, because you do not now know how to operate when there are no people. So because you are brought into the limelight at a very tender age. Now the flip side of it is that your life is never private. You don't have a private life. People know you from beginning to the end. So your mistakes are out there. Mtoto wa mchungaji anaweza fanyaje kitu kama hiyo? You know, like,
they should get pregnant.
Oh my Jesus, kaya talabo. Enda laba. Jesus, utaitwa mbele ya madhabahu.
Confess.
Tangasa. Like, I think been there, done that, Jesus. But the process is that you've gone through process, and you are not limited and put off from that space of the process. It's a painful space to be. Because now it's different, because the challenge is that if your father is the founding minister, you'll find yourself doing everything. You'll become, you told us you're member number 3.
Yeah, member number 3.
DCU moja. Like me, member number 4 because I have an elder brother who's in the States. You know, member number 3 hata wewe. So, like, we are the people who ni kama Muhindi akiwa na biashara, mtoto atashughulikia biashara ya baba yake. So hatutataka biashara yanguke. So you are in that space where keyboardist amekosa kukuja, so utaishikilia. You're not learning because you want to. You're learning because you're protecting the image. So most people thought I got into the music ministry because I loved it. No, I was taking care of my father's business. So in the process,
the father here is the earthly one.
It's the earthly one. So Nasaizo, people did not know that I am the kind of person who got baptized, all that stuff before I got born again. So because like tuliona watu wanaingishwa kwa maji, si tuingie to do. So it's not out of relationship. And that's why I usually tell a lot of past people when I go to different ministries, I tell people, allow these children to grow. Because I remember there's one day nilienda nakumbuka Wimpy. Kulikuwa na restaurant kulikuwa ni Wimpy. Bas hapo. I've gone to eat at Wimpy na mtu wa mshirika akakuja kuniuliza, "Yale kijana wa mchungaji. Yale umekuja hapa kufanya nini?" Ambia si nakula. Hai, tutaambia mchungaji. They called my parents. You know, it's like I'm wondering, I'm eating.
Someone found me in Ngomma.
Yes.
And I had gone there to look for clothes. Zangu za kuvaa. Wakastuka, nikamwambia unafanya nini hapa? Nimekuja kutafuta nguo. Mimi nakuja kununua nguo zangu Ngomma saa zingine. Uongo. Wewe mtoto wa bishop. You know, like I'm not supposed to isitakani kuvaa nguo ya mtumba ama kitu kama hiyo. No. It's the perception.
Before we go further in that, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. Maybe before the church began, or when the church was beginning, you are just learning how to talk. You have siblings behind you, and the ministry is just starting. The ministry is just starting. There is not enough. What are the things that you remember? What are the things that you remember, or the challenges you remember going through during those initial stages as a pastor's kids? Because you see, we said we have different kinds of pastors. Now, I know the 3 of you. You started right with before the ministry. You started.
I remember when we were growing up. I keep telling people I don't have any memory of my father until when I was 13. When I'm in standard 8. That's when my memories start having my father in the picture. Before that, I have other people, my grandmother, my mother, my uncles, my aunties, teachers, other people. But my dad, I have maybe 3 distinct memories of my father. And I have a very good memory, I have a photographic memory. He was hardly ever there. But the thing that I remember is that, because by the time I was born, my father was already in ministry. Let's start even from my names. None of my names is a name that my parents picked. Every name was, Joy was picked by Bishop, by Apostle Joe Kayo. Brenda was picked by an uncle. Rita was picked because of my grandmother. So there's no name that they sat down and said, oh, if we have a daughter, we will call her Joy. It was always beholden to something bigger than me. Now I understand her name is Destiny, and I see my destiny wrapped up in all these great people, and so I appreciate it. But when I was growing up, remember there's a time I asked them, why didn't you just choose me? Why didn't you choose something for me? But in line with your question, we came in quick succession. So Joy came a year, and like 3 months later, Joan came, and then almost 2 years after that, Peace came. So my mom had 3 children under 5 when we were starting out, and the man has gone to be the Lord. So in fact, I remember when my father went to Nigeria for his theological studies, I had to go live with my grandmother in Shaurimoyo because my mom couldn't cope with 3 young children. She's still working for the coffee board. You cannot afford a house girl, so you're living with a sister and a cousin, and those days is when they would bring you drama, you chase them. So for a period of my life, I had to live with my grandmother in Shaurimoyo, and you know Shaurimoyo is a 10 by 10. And still my younger aunties and uncles were in the home, but there was just no coping. But there's one memory I've never forgotten, because while we were growing up, food was never a problem, but sometimes ilikuwa inakosekana. And so you'd be sitting there and you're wondering, asking yourself, okay, what will happen? I remember my mother telling me those prayers of, let's pray. By the time we're done with the prayer, God will have answered us. And that's what we did. And when we were done, somebody came to visit us and they brought some ndoma. And so that night we had ndoma and strong tea. I've never forgotten, we're in Jericho. I remember so distinctly that the sense of gratitude that we even had something to eat. And that's why I think now I really struggle when I see people are hungry. Because I know what it is like to be at a place where you actually have got nothing to eat. But on the flip side, when the ministry started picking up, then washirika would bless you and bring little hampers to the house. And I remember somebody made a comment and said, unajua nyinyi mnakula sausage kwa nyumba yenu kwa sababu tunaleta kama atungekuwa tunaleta hata mngekuwa mnajua ladha ya sausage, because they know what they pay your father. They know your mother is working, you know, she was a secretary, so she's working at her little secretarial job. And your father, we know what we pay him. So if you guys are seeing juice and sausage in your house, it's because we visited. It got to a place where it was so bad until Mama Joy just told Dad, you know what? No more. Washirika cannot bring anything more to this house, because that level of, you know, you guys are alive because we are keeping you here. We are the ravens that are feeding. I remember her sense of indignation at people treating you like, you know, you are needy cases. You know, these days wachungaji are the top kahunas and then washirika. Those days it was washirika ndo kusema mchungaji tunakupanga mali tunataka utoshe. And I remember God had to help me to forgive washirika. Because I got to a place, washirika as a whole, it didn't even matter which washirika. I struggled with the people of God, and I used to struggle to love the people of God, because I saw uto tumadharau tudogo, and I got to a place where I really struggled to love the people of God, because I used to see the blood, sweat and tears that my parents put into this. My mother, everything she earned was poured into ministry. My father, the little he earned was still plowed back in ministry. Their love, their life, everything was in ministry. Alafu watu wanakuchukulia hivi hivi. Until one day, my father gave me a book called Children Who Carry Our Hearts. When I read that book, I realized I'm taking offense for somebody who has crucified himself. So he's happy to die that death. Mimi niko hapa nasema mbona unamgonga misumari? Na yeye mwenyewe ndo amejiangika msalabani. After I read that book is when I asked the Lord, help me to release this anger, this hurt, this angst I have against the people of God. Because I had gotten to a place where even if you make a fair point, I couldn't take it. I would take it as an attack. And I would come back at you. I think that's why I'm a lawyer. I would come back at you with all I've got. Or if something happened in church and I looked at it as a betrayal or as a slight, nilikuwa hata sasa hii napita na mwanaume, but I've learned to take it pole pole. So I think hiyo nikikumbuka hizo siku za mavumbi, they have sort of shaped me now to have more compassion for the people of God, more compassion for the suffering people even in the world, but at the same time it also fills me with gratitude that right now si ya mavumbi, I mean from igloo to this, tumepiga hatua.
Unajua kuna watu pale, there are people there who when they see you or they see your dad, they think this is the way he has been all their years, but they don't know the pain that you have passed. You as a pastor's kid have had to endure to get where you are. This is why it's good when we talk it out, and we let the people to know. And also not forgetting there are pastors' kids who are going through what you went through many years ago. And we need to be an encouragement to them. Yes.
Jesus. Hey, Baba, I hope kuna tissue. Jesus. Sarah. You know, you're talking about you being given your name by Apostle Joe Kayo. I was given my name. There's a name I use. It's my second name, which people don't know. My second name is Kitonga. So najua pale nilitoka. Bwana asifiwe sana. So my dad used to be the first Secretary General to the Redeemed Gospel Church. He was the first Secretary General. And nilipozaliwa, before I was born, Archbishop told my parents, mtapata kijana. Na ataitwa Kitonga. So my name is Solomon Kitonga Sila. Yes. And my dad served in the Redeemed Gospel Church. He saw it from beginning. You know, he's the one even who worked on the first constitution of the Redeemed Gospel Church. So started from the beginning. And then we worked into a ministry. He was in City Hall when it began. Ran City Hall till 1989. By the time Dad was leaving City Hall had become a very big church. So that time, you are at least rolling in very good cars, you know. And Dad had not left his work by then. He left his work in 87. But before then, he was a qualified CP accountant and all that stuff. So he's changing cars. He's living the life because he was not depending on the church to run ministry. So those were very good years for us. 88, we were in very good schools. And in a year, for the three of us, we were paying 18,000. That time, 18,000 for the three of us. Then issues happened. We had to leave Redeemed. Dad had to go start a ministry called the Living Word Church. Started it, and our first space to start the church was in a school hall, City Primary School. So you start church there, and the first service we were 6. Bwana asifiwe sana. For those who are watching, unakuwa na ministry ambayo hujui ni watu ni wangapi na ni wewe unatumiwa na Bwana Yesu. We were there, been there, start there. And we were the first people in ministry that day. And at that time, Daddy has left work. And after Dad has left work and we in just that space, offering ya kwanza Bwana asifiwe, ile mnaangaliana ni sisi tunatoa, hata wewe umetoa 100 nimekuona, like we know what has been given. So it's those processes that now you have to start from scratch again. Daddy has left work. We've moved from a school we were paying 18,000 per year to a school that all of us in total were paying 900 shillings per year, because it's 300. Bwana asifiwe. Hiyo ni shule ya By Faith Ministries International. You transitions. And 1 minute you are flowing in cash, next minute you're not flowing in cash. 1 minute you have the courage to come out of the house and go play with kids. Now you don't have. You don't have. Clothes have become minimal. Food is becoming minimal. And it's a weird space. You're seeing children coming to be picked that you used to go to school with, being picked with a bus. You are walking now to school. Asema, how could you go to such a school? Then out of the blues, my mom has left the bank, because she was in the bank. She's left the bank and started doing business for at least to try supplement the income for Dad and all that stuff. And she said she wanted to do this so that Dad cannot go back to that space of just regretting his decision to go full time. But now she's doing farming. Now, Lafu, the weird space is she's doing farming. Then sometimes I don't go for games, because games are 3:45. I leave school immediately after class. I don't stay for games. Go rush back home, change, take nyanyas from the house, go to the stage, napanga, tuuze. Na watoto tu watapitia hapo mbele yangu pale nimepanga nyanya. Bwana asifiwe sana. Hallelujah. Yes. So, and like you have to sell nyanyas. You have every holiday, when people are going for holiday, mumeenda kwa shamba, kulima. Kupanda nyanya, kupanda kitunguu, like, because she had a farm in Athi River and all that stuff. So those processes, you're starting from scratch again. And then at that point,
It becomes, where is the God of...
Yes. You're wondering, why are they scandalizing my father, saying he took money from this place and this place, and we are struggling? So where did the money go? Daddy, did you take money? Where did you take money from? And where are we? Why should we struggle like this? And then now you're having services, but now you have to teach yourself how to play instruments. You have to do this. Learn things the hard way. I started leading worship before I got born again. So because like hakuna mtu. So one day people are there, they've come and they told Dad, this is how we're going to roll. Next minute they're saying, come out tulipa tukuchi. Bwana asifiwe sana. So you today basis akikosa kuja, that's how I ended up learning instruments all around. Basis akikosa kuja, nani akikosa kuja nashikilia. So my younger brother and I ended up learning instruments by default. So not because we wanted to, but that's the space. So so you are there, your food is not enough at times. You know, though my mom did her best to ensure we were eating well, but there is a day I remember we didn't have food in the house, literally. And tumetoka huduma, tumetoka kanisani, and there was nothing. And my parents were so frustrated that day, they drove off. They drove off and trying to figure out what we will eat. Then somebody came, an old woman, and there's an old woman who came home. Na siko ni wale watu uko napatia heshima tu, they would just speak nasty when they find you and all that stuff. But these days she just came and say, patini dadi barua, hii ni dadi, ayuko mpatie. So mimi ile barua nikachukua tu nikatupa ni because like I didn't think it's of any use. So father amerudi, bado hatujajua tunakula nini. So then out of the blues, as we were talking, I told her, Dad, kuna ule mama alikuja na katuachia barua, kena nikamchukulia just for the sake. Nilipopatia father aliangalia 20,000 shillings. Jesus is Lord. So that's when we went and had a meal. Tulitolewa sisi wote tuende
kwanza ya hoteli.
Jesus. Yani ya kutoa, hiyo ni wala. So it's those things that they were painful experiences.
We want to go into some of those experiences,
yes,
a little bit, but we want to take a break. But before we take a break, before we take a break, let's hear from Dan.
Mine, I think, was different because we started from nothing, and if I recall well, I never missed any meal in my home. You know, so my parents started pole pole. My mother was still working for the provincial commissioner that time, and my father had just resigned as a teacher, a school teacher, and got into ministry. I think that was 1983. So he struggled when he started, and but I would give him the benefit, or to say that he really tried not to show us that he's struggling. You know, so we got everything that we wanted. We never went to the best of schools. I went to St. Joseph's Primary, then I went to Freehold. My brother followed, and my sister. So it was just a normal life. But everything I remember was, if we told my dad or my mom, they would say, God will provide, or God will see us through.
Oh yeah, that is true.
That is a statement.
For everything.
Bwana atafungua mlango na shidania. And that was very good because it taught us
standard reply.
It taught us that to focus on God, not to focus and look at our parents like they are the providers only, but to focus on God. And even in my adult life, that has taught me a lot, that my focus is not supposed to be on the parents, but to God. So partly, some of the challenges maybe I would say is when the visitors would come. I remember there's a time, there's a singer used to be called Faustin Munishi.
Oh yes,
Munishi. Munishi spent, I think I don't know the story well, but I think the first place he landed after he got to in Kenya, he got to Nakuru was in our house, and we hosted him for some time.
Yeah, Nairobi was in our house.
Now
we hosted him for some time.
And we would sacrifice our beds. I remember. I think my brother would sleep. We would ile kitanda ya gorofa,
Double decker.
the double decker. So he got one room. where he could be spending, his time there during the accordion, and we got one room to share. So apart from such minimal challenges and people coming to your house anytime they want to come because tunakuja kuona pastor wetu, they would just pop in. You are watching your favorite program, unaambiwa haya muende bedroom kwanza so that we can deal with the visitors. So there were such moments.
TV ilikuwa moja.
TV ya black and white. In fact, tumenunua TV very late. I think we didn't have a TV for a very long time. Early, I think 90 something, 94 or 5. That's when we got our first TV. And we used to enjoy when they are away, and we would watch Sunday times we would watch Ramayan, if you remember Ramayan.
Jesus.
So those are good memories. But what I would say, so that we can take a break, is that we never struggled. We were struggling. Maybe my parents were struggling, but they really hid it from us. They cautioned us and they barricaded so we could not be able to do that. And for that, of course, we really appreciate, because we've been able to grow with that, knowing that even though challenges would come, God is our provider, and we'll still look up unto God.
No, and you know, that's a crucial point, because that's the thing we also learned. Yeah. We didn't have much. We didn't have everything that we wanted, but we had everything that we needed. Because, like you said, we were never chased away from school, even though us guys were in that. One of the hours you'd pay 300 and take the receipt to Joy's class, John's class, Mrs. class. Jesus. So it was the same 300 work for all of us. But even with that, we had enough. In fact, I was telling someone, I did not consider ourselves poor. When you grow older and you go to high school is when you have the concept of, oh, there are people who are rich. But when I was growing up, we did not feel poor, because that standard answer of God will provide, eventually something always worked out. So you never really felt deprived. But looking back now, I'm like, actually, we didn't have much, but we had enough.
Can I say this also? Like, I just remember there's this one day, I think this happened to each one of us. Ili like, unakuta, if you guys became sick, trust me, au mwende hospitali kwanza. Katika jina.
Kulikuwa na mauta kwa nini?
We will come. We'll come to that.
Oh my God.
Well. Thank you so much, viewers. I hope you're enjoying yourself. We will take a short break, and then we will be back in a moment. Thank you so very much. Every Thursday, 8:15 is our communion night. This communion is international. It's for everybody. Everybody is so excited. We are so excited about Thursday night when the church gangs up and is united together. People from different denominations, people from different backgrounds, we partake of the communion together. Because instead of you going out there for the communion, the communion comes to you where you are. So please remember that. Viewers, welcome back. I hope you're enjoying the discussion. We are here with the pastors' kids or ministers' kids, and they're just telling us we are just listening to them, enjoying their days as they were growing up in the pastor's house and the challenges that they faced both in school and at home and in ministry. This is to help us, to enrich us, those of us who are starting, and those of you who may be looking at your pastor's kids and you think they are not very good. I want you to know that you cannot know the potential in them. You give them time, and you will see what will come out of them. It is very easy for you to look at the kids and write them off. Because again, pastors' children are natural. They are normal children like any other child. And from the experiences that these ones are telling us, you will understand that they are normal. Now, we were talking about the experiences at home. That when you get sick, the first thing is Rakamashariando.
Yes.
in the name.
Katika. It's Katika. There's no other name given among men.
That's what. And it's something good that we can now look at it and laugh at it because we see it worked.
Yes.
It worked.
And it still does.
And it still does. You know, I like that story you were telling us about your, was it your daughter? Or
Yes, my daughter.
Your daughter.
I'd gone to hospital. I'd taken my daughter to hospital. Her temperature had gotten to 43. So when I was in the hospital, the doctors were saying, now what do we do? So the doctor rushed out. And my daughter started convulsing in the hospital. When she started convulsing, it just came default settings. Yani, sikufikiria. Katika jina. And that thing worked because her temperature just moved from 43 to 39. And my daughter was supposed to spend the night at the hospital. I told them she's not spending the night here. And she got healed. She got totally healed. Because this is something that works. And I'm grateful, as much as we thought that time that our parents were being unrealistic. But this name works. This name works.
It wasn't being unrealistic. There's no medical insurance. They had no otherwise. It either works or it works.
It works. It was powerful. Just those experiences. Because for me, I am the kind of person who's had enough seasons where I was sickly when I was growing up. At the age of 3, I'd taken my auntie's medication.
Oh.
She had come to stay with us, so I took her medication. I was in a coma for 3 days. So
you took her medication because you wanted to be healed, or you took her medication?
I thought it was
I was a baby. So nimepata tu madawa tu hapo, so nikakula.
Oh.
And I'd taken a crazy dose of it. So I was in a coma.
Oh.
Then I had bronchitis when I was growing up. On top of that, I had chronic tuberculosis, and at times I used to collapse on stage, and people think it's the spirit. And people, and my mom would pull me behind and just minister to me, and that was my life. So seeing that it works, it works. Today I'm here, tuberculosis free. You know, I'm totally healed. I had a right deaf ear. Right now I can sing. I could not sing without that.
Because without
balance.
One ear,
yes. So I've seen that name work. I ended up even writing a Kamba song about the name of Jesus. Yes, it's because I've seen it work.
Amen.
Wow.
I remember when my daughter was born, we had a traumatic birth with Nicole. So midway she got into distress. She got stuck on her way out. I got tired and I decided, you know what, if she's dying, either she's dying or I'm dying or we are both dying. And I remember the doctor reached a decision. She decided to pull her out to use vacuum. But by that time, she was no longer breathing. She was blue. And when she came out, her left hand had palsy. I remember looking at her, wondering whether she'll live or she'll die. So after about 30 minutes of them working on her, they managed to resuscitate her. But now they tell you, for the length of time, she's not been breathing. These are the complications, cerebral palsy. You know, they give you the whole
list.
And you get out of hospital with your little broken baby, thinking to yourself, oh no, what have we gotten ourselves into? And remember that time I was still a magistrate. I was in Mombasa. And we started being posted to all these specialists here and there and everywhere. So the last place we went, we spent 1 week at Karen Hospital. And they did all this EEG, ECG, all the funny things. And for sure there was going to be some brain damage, and she was supposed to be completely on medication and on therapy. So we had speech therapists lined up and occupational therapists and all these other therapists lined up. And I remember we came, because now our home, by that time had been transferred to Murang'a. So our home is in Murang'a. So after we were discharged, we went to Bishop's house. That time, you know, you are so downtrodden, your first time parents, and you're thinking, hey, now where are we going to start with this? And I remember we'd been given all these medicines we were supposed to buy to help her to cope with her new situation, with her current situation. And Bishop JB just looked at me and told me, you know what, if you fill that prescription and start giving this child that medicine, you'll have confirmed the word of man. Do you believe the word of the Lord or you believe the word of a man? He said, I believe the word of the Lord. The only reason we didn't leave hospital with the medicine was because the cover ran out. So they gave us a prescription to go buy the medicines outside. To this day, we've never filled that prescription. You've met my daughter, Nicole. Her arm is still a little bit wonky. But I mean, she's totally 100%. Because from there, we moved from what man is saying to faith. So when her speech was delayed, it was mashambaraka. Luna katakata mashamba, tutakatakata mashamba. The day my child started speaking, and I'm saying this before one of God, I kid you not, my child opened her mouth and she was speaking fluent English with an American accent. Mommy, could I please have some water? You know those things, you've been born in Mombasa. You're speaking English as if you're born in America. It did not make any sense.
Yeah.
This had to be something downloaded from heaven. She got to a place where even in class, she's excelling. Nicole has a sort of memory where don't tell her something you don't want repeated. Because if she knows your age, she'll be like, why are you harassing a 62-year-old woman? They'll be wondering. She's been counting Shosho's birthdays and she knows now she's reached 62. She has got such a memory. Maths, numbers, to her, it's nothing. She looks at them and I realized, you know, we have a God who not only answers prayer, but he does things that confound even those doctors. They see her now and they wonder. She's walking, she's functioning, she's not just cognitive, she's actually intelligent. These are things we were told will never happen for her. So this thing works. I mean, we can laugh about it, but I'm telling you, I laugh knowing full well that the first default position when something happens in the house, even when the child is sick, poor Stephen has been inducted. I go and bring the olive oil and tell him, man of God, you have work to do here. My husband's like, man of God, oh, me. Like, yes, wekele umtoto mikono. It works.
It sure does. Maybe it might not have an example to give like you do, but I
You're
know.
undercover, my friend.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that the Bible tells us that these blessings goes to the third and the fourth generation.
Amen.
So as a result of this, we find that our parents, you know, our pastors, maybe before them, they are our grandparents, and we are still taking these to our kids at the moment. So whatever you find you are doing, or you saw your dad or mom do, that's the same thing you end up doing. Before pakue ati let me rush to the hospital first, you put your hands and you pray for the kids. And I have found that also in my house. You know, with the anointing oil, duta comes on Jerry, but that tumbo inauma, wapi, naumia side gani, hii side, okay, leta mafuta, you apply, katika jina la Yesu. Ilauma tena, tujaribu tena hii side ingine. By the end of the day, atakwambia iliacha kuuma. And you see I'm also raising the faith of that young child. Yeah. So I just want to say that whatever we learn, it boils down to us and our children. Yeah. So it's a good thing. The word faith, or the word of God, does work.
You know, that answers the question that I was going to ask you, because the next question I was going to ask you was how would you say being in a pastor's house impacted you, or growing in a pastor's house impacted you? And I can pick it from the stories that you are giving. Maybe I could ask, when you look back, do you see any negative impact? Because what we have talked about is positive impact. Do we see any negative impact that maybe growing up in a pastor's house, I think I was impacted negatively in this area, or this area did not work out very well? Is there any area, or for you, for now, you can say we are just positive?
You cannot say there's no negative impact. Negative impact.
There's a lot of it.
Ay, Jesus! Help us.
There's a lot of it.
Mmesema it will not be used against us.
We are undercover. Only Bishop Mokoro. Hapa we are undercover, my friend.
As long as you're here, you are covered.
Yes.
And no word is spoken in this program will be used against you anywhere.
I think there's a lot that really affected us. Because I'll say, even for me, a lot affected us because, one, our parents were not there. Yeah. And there's a phrase my mother loves using, that most preachers have gone to be with the Lord before their time. You know? He's going to be with the Lord. So
it was in the mission
field.
So you find that having absent absentee parents because they're serving other people's. They're sort of, let me say this on camera. Which camera do I use? Yes. Let me say this. Most of you church members forget one thing. Our parents sometimes neglect us, not because they want to, but because of the call and because they want to take care of your homes. They cancel your families, they ensure you guys are together. And sometimes they'll ensure you guys are together while we are not together.
Yes. Our dad is not there. Or our mom is not there.
We are not together. We have issues. Sometimes you have an issue and you want to see your parents, but he hasn't first to deal with a member. And sometimes the challenge is that they prioritized you people more than they did us. And we felt it. So, but it was their call. It was their call. You would find that in the place of prioritizing people, sometimes you find those people are the ones who have hurt us. But because they want to keep that member, they'd rather sacrifice our pain, yes, than lose that member. And those things used to really irritate us. And sometimes unakuta umesema jua kitu ambao hujafanya kweli hujafanya, but because lazima amini mshirika, it used to mess us up. Simple things like normal, you'd expect to have some experiences. Should I go there? Should I not go there? Mungu atanisaidia. The point is, I talk about spaces where you're left with the house helps and all that stuff. And because your parents are not there, those people end up taking advantage of us. I'd talk of abuse. Sorry to say, I've gone through that in the hands of a house help. For me to get out of that space, it's taken years. It's taken years. People thinking, Solo, are you normal? But because I've struggled with a lot of things, but because it did not just start here, it started from that space. There is a door that was opened, and sometimes you're saying mtoto wa mchungaji asikiangi, but do you know what they have gone through in the back spaces? But it's not because the parents wanted to, but the enemy wanted to fight the man of God through his family. So we've been the first targets of the man of God. So you'll find the child of the pastor, you're saying they are rude, they are drunkards, they are what, but it's not because they wanted to. But there is a space that was opened up, not because the father wanted to, but maybe he was not there, but he was taking care of the flock. And the enemy came through a person they brought in the house. 1 year ago, I was dealing with one pastor's child who was raped by an elder in the church. But the day she mentioned it to the mother, they couldn't deal with it because the elder is one of the greatest givers in the church, and they could not face him and deal with it. So those are spaces that child till today doesn't want anything to do with church because of that space. I had to get to a place of just walking them through it and bring them to a place of healing and just get to a place of forgiveness, because it's not something you can directly deal with. Most people would say, why shouldn't that person be taken to court and all that stuff? But there are things it's just hard to deal with in such spaces.
Let me take it up from where you have said, because my father has 4 daughters and 1 son, and the girls came first. And the same thing in our home. We were having a conversation with my mom the other day, and she reminded me of one of our house guests who used to have an extended stay. You know, that some guys used to come, and you just know this is a 2-week affair. Hakuna mali anaenda. He'll stay in Nairobi until Nairobi is... And so when she mentioned his name, I sneered. I was like, oh God, please don't talk about that fellow. And she was like, why? What's wrong? And I realized, oh, by the way, my mother had no idea, but that man had tried to rape me, had tried to rape our Joanne, had tried to rape our peace. He wasn't successful because, again, the Embu part of us, I think we are very militant, because each of us like fought tooth and nail and got out of the situation. And also we didn't know that he had tried with each of us until many years later when I talk about, that man is such an idiot, I wish he never comes here again. Then I realized John says, oh, yeah, the same. Now, from then on now, I started, that's why I'm called party leader. That's when I decided this fellow is never stepping in this house again. And I used my party leader membership to ensure that he was no longer a house guest in our home. But I'm having this discussion with Mama Joy barely a week ago. This is the first she's even hearing that somebody almost raped her daughters
In her own
in
house.
her own home. And yet they were opening their house as ministers. It's unfortunate because in trying to do good and then that happened, several things happen. There are those of us who deal with it by running to the cross, and there are those of us who deal with it by running away from the cross. Now, with me, one of the things, like you were saying, a negative impact that growing up in a pastor's house had was church politics. I mean, you think politicians have got drama, you know nothing. I mean, politics was spawned and grown in the petri dish called church. The politics of church almost made me lose my faith. I got to a place where I was like, you know what, injili gani tunahubiri if I know Fulani is doing this against this, and this one has betrayed this one. He's coming today, wants me to call him bishop, and I know he broke away from that church and went away with half the... That thing I have struggled with until today. Now I have learned with the principles of honor and also trusting God to take care of his servants. It doesn't affect me as much. But there's a time I would be, we are in service, we are worshiping. Your wife has slept in our house for 2 days because you have beaten her. And there you are standing in front of an elder, you are lifting your hands so high, speaking in tongues until you are shedding tears of adoration to God. And I tell you, the politics of church almost made me lose my faith. I had to come to a place where I decided, am I going to go to heaven or I'll go to hell because I'm carrying people's pain? So I think for many pastors' kids, being exposed to that front row seat of these days, I thank God for the office, because most of the things happen in the office. But those days, the cases would happen in the home. The counseling would happen in the home. So you're in the kitchen, mumefukuzwa ndio mko kitchen, but you're all ears. So watu wakidongongania huko ndani yo, wakitoka hapo you're like wololo wololo, kumbe baba fulani anakuagana.
These things do happen.
That thing messed me up almost completely. And I think, like, let me not speak for my sisters, but I know for a fact part of what influenced, because all of us actually had one prayer which was answered except for Philippa, that Father, give me just a man, akizidi sana Asha, lakini tafadhali sio mchungaji. Because you've run, I've looked at what Mama Joy has put up with, what I've put up with myself and my sisters. You get to a place where, like, Lord, it's enough for one lifetime. For me, just give me a normal man who loves you and loves me and the children. Lakini jani ya mchungaji tafadhali spare me. But it's a prayer that was born out of pain rather than because you really didn't love ministry. You're like, enough, Lord, enough.
I remember I had that. I had prayed and sworn, is it swearing, that I will never become a pastor. And I said, no, hata kukifanyika nini, I will never be a pastor. You can use some, if you can use anything, Lord, so you can use something else, but not me.
There you go.
If you can use anything, you can, but not me this time. Because of those church politics, people fighting your dad or fighting your parents.
That betrayal was bad.
You like, right now when my father goes out and preach, he talks about the way my mother used to only have 2 dresses. I didn't know that she had 2 dresses, but there's one I still can recall. But that is the pain that you go through as a child, and you don't know you're being affected until you mature, you get to adulthood. Like you mentioned, being abused by house helps. The same happened to me. They would come.
And they keep saying that we have our first sexual experiences with the house helps, but actually the converse is true.
Exactly.
The house helps actually, like, even our first exposure to porn was because of a house help.
Yes.
Putting a VHS and your parents are not there and you're all glued like this.
So those are and I think even telling the pastors who are starting right now or they have their homes, the times have changed, which would mean that even if you have a visitor or coming to preach into your church, or put him in a hotel, mambo ya familia ya pastor, wacha mkuwe ni nyinyi peke yenu na watu yenu.
Amen.
But when you take you bring other people who, like you said, unajua anakuja kukaa wiki mbili. Like that time I was telling you, Monisha, I think he ended up spending about 3 or 6 months with us. I can't remember well. But that opening of that door brings so many other things that come to affect the child. And when the child is affected, the reactions become different when they are fully grown. One of the things I didn't like was, we used to visit, visiting was on Sundays, those days back in high school. And now Sunday is when the parents are preaching. I remember my first visiting after I went to Form 1. And I remember from Nakuru, I've been sent to Muranga. This is the first visiting. I've never been out of my home for the first term, which was about 2 months. When I got a midterm, instead of coming, I was told, no, you stay at Bishop Kanieru, then Pastor Kanieru. You stay to Bishop Kanieru's house for the weekend. And then from there, when visiting day comes, we'll come and see you. Sure enough, I've spent there. I don't even have clothes to change because I am a mono. I only had my black trousers and my back shirt. That's why I went and bought a t-shirt for the first time in Muranga for 30 shillings in the Mokoyo market. I bought a t-shirt. And that's what I used with my black trouser going to church. My parents are doing ministry. They don't even know mtoto wao anaendelea ana what's going on. So the visiting day, anyway, the midterm comes and we go back. Visiting day comes. That time my dad was trying to establish a church in Nat Hall. It was 1996, 95, 96 there, whereabout. And so what I'm trying to say was challenging was that they came visiting me at 5 p.m. When people are being told go, when I've eaten all the chapos with my friends, me, I waited, I kept looking until I was like, I can't wait anymore. Form 1. Nikarudi kwa dom kulala. So as I'm sleeping is when I'm being tapped. Someone taps my leg. Hey, Junior, wamekuja. Oh, should have seen my joy when I saw the vehicle driving in. I jumped, I cried, there was all that. But it's a challenge because they are out there serving people, and it seems like they kind of forget their family. But at the same time, what we came to turn out to be is a result of that serving God. And then when you realize, like I said when we started, my dad will probably be in the ranks of the general or these walimu wakubwa. But now he became a pastor, and as a result of that calling that I had, or when I had said that I don't want to be a pastor, I could be able now to see and like, wow, I was able to give my life to Jesus because of that. The calling now has been birthed within me, and I give God all the glory for that. But we went through a lot of challenges.
Well, viewers, this topic is so interesting and it's so long, and I must say there's no way we can finish it in this program. I have got to bring them again. And I will ask them when they are coming back. I want you to be dressed exactly the way you are dressed, and you will continue right from there. That is a demand. I am demanding that when you come again, you will be dressed the same way you are dressed, and we will continue. We'll continue with this discussion. Thank you so very much. This coming week, we will still have the same team and continue with the discussion. God bless you. We love you and we value you.